Good evening, everybody, and welcome to ntTV's online report. I'm Michaela Goose. Over the past weekend, Texas passed over 5,000 deaths due to coronavirus. In Denton, there have been 49 deaths related to the virus, and as of Saturday, 128 new cases, bringing the total to over 6,000 with over 3,000 recovered cases. Now, one of the main steps in fighting the coronavirus is contact tracing, and mobile apps seem to be the way to do it.
It's considered the gold standard for fighting the pandemic. Contact tracing requires testing of all people who may be infected, isolating those who are, and then tracking down others who may have been exposed to someone infected, then testing and isolating them as well. But a new study suggests quick COVID testing and quick reporting of those results are crucial keys to making this tool work. The researchers say app-based contact tracing methods were more effective.
Only through that contact tracing can you actually help beat the virus back.
CNN senior international correspondent Fred Pleiken is familiar with app-based contact tracing after having to be tested for COVID-19 while working in Germany.
If my test would have been positive, I would have put it on this thing. We have this coronavirus app here in Germany. This one's actually telling me right now that I haven't had any contact with anyone who's high risk. But I would have had to put that into that app to make sure other people who have been in contact with me know whether or not my test would have been positive.
The researchers say app technology could keep the virus from rapidly spreading, even with a delay in testing of not more than 2 days, as long as 80% of people exposed are tested and had their contacts traced. For today's Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
The other part of fighting this virus is vaccines. Many organizations have been researching and experimenting with vaccines since early March, but they are now asking for volunteers to help test these vaccines.
In reality, there's a lot of things we don't know. Who knew that this would be happening, a year ago?
Volunteers like Elisa Green are crucial in finding the symptoms and side effects of these trial vaccines. Vaccinations are predicted to be ready in 2021, but no organization has released an official statement on this deadline. Many of the Major League Baseball teams started their seasons this past week, but the Miami Marlins home opener has been postponed due to a COVID-19 outbreak on the team. The team has had 14 cases between players and coaches pop up in recent days. The team did have a series in Philadelphia and will remain in order to prevent a spread of the virus. The Yankees are expected to begin a series tonight and would have been staying in the same clubhouse as the Marlins. The Phillies have assured the Yankees that the clubhouse has been fumigated multiple times, but no decisions have been made. Other sports organizations are also wanting to get back on the field and return to a sense of normalcy. The NFL has set up many training precautions as they return back to training in preparation for the upcoming season.
Some of the changes indoors are going to look very familiar. Lots of masks, near constant sanitizing, and physical distancing everywhere. Treatment rooms, weight rooms, even mealtime, and on the field.
There are actually 3 regulation-sized football fields here side by side. So first thing that jumps to your mind is how we can do physical distancing here, right? So as players start strength and conditioning activities, for example, you're talking about each individual or each very small group having a lot of space to work with.
There will even be this new space-age looking technology, a bubble of sorts for those who want it.
A number of our players have worn eye shields over the past years for protection or for performance reasons. So it's basically an extension of that device, but it's a multi-layered device so that you've got ventilation holes and you've got some filters in it.
There are these proximity tracking devices that will beep or flash when players or staff get too close to one another. And then that data is collected, making contact tracing easier if someone does become infected. Now, unlike the NBA bubble that's isolated the entire league in Orlando, the NFL has more of what they call an ecosystem. People will still live in their own homes, they'll be with their own families, and they will travel with their teams for games.
Now, there are still worries and many things are still up in the air, but the NFL is hoping to begin the season with healthy players. And Hurricane Hanna hit landfall late Saturday evening in South Texas as a Category 1 hurricane with 90-mile-per-hour winds. The hurricane was then downgraded as a tropical depression Sunday evening, but has already created damage in the area with dramatic floods and property damage. Hanna was the first storm of the Atlantic season and hit Texas's south coast, south of Corpus Christi. The storm is still in the process of declining. And in Austin, a man was fatally shot during a Black Lives Matter protest. A car approached the group of protesters who then surrounded his car. Garrett Foster then approached the car and may have pointed his handgun at the man in the vehicle, who then shot him. The suspect has been released pending further investigation. Congressman and civil rights activist John Lewis is having a week of memorial services. Today he will be in Washington, where he served as the first black lawmaker on the Capitol Rotunda. Lewis was a strong civil rights activist his entire life and even survived a brutal beating in Selma, Alabama during a march. Part of his memorial consisted of his casket crossing that same bridge he was beaten on. Lewis was an icon to the civil rights movement and worked for equality his whole life. The memorial will end on Wednesday with a private burial for the family. That's all I have for you guys tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to join us tomorrow for another ntTV online report, and be sure to follow us on Twitter at ntTV_news to keep up with all the latest. Wear your mask and have a good night.